So here is the river garden. This was actually in the middle of April when I made the little omelet for you that I picked some fresh asparagus and some spinach and chives. Well, I was able to harvest just a few spears of asparagus before it was time to go home. And for those of you who have been subscribed to my channel for a while, you know that this is a garden that I rarely visit. I get out here probably about once a month, so it's always a treat to see what's growing. So today, this is what the garden looks like, and we'll head over here. I want to show you what's growing and how things have changed since the middle of April. In the middle here, I have some rose fin apple fingerling potatoes that are doing great, and I also have some of the French gray shallots that I planted last year in the fall. In the front of the bed are my common chives, and I planted these as transplants last year. They are blossoming beautifully this year, and I think the colors are always just so beautiful of the common chive. Now we'll head over to the opposite corner of the garden, and over here I've already planted out some tomatoes and peppers. I also have a head of cabbage along with a kaleette, and I showed you how to grow that last year. I'll include a link to that video here for you. Now any of these links that I include during this video, you're welcome to click on those and they'll open up in a new window so you can pause them and watch them later. That way this video won't get interrupted. And these are our red baron onions. I planted those in the spring. Here is some echinacea in the very back of the bed. You can't quite see that, but I moved it into this garden last year, and I'll include a link for you if you'd like to see how you can also grow echinacea, or otherwise known as coneflowers. Now in the middle of the garden is the asparagus. Here's just a comparison for you. This was last month in the middle of April, and here it is now. As I mentioned, I can't always get around to harvesting all of the spears, and so what those little spears do is they fern out. And so this little asparagus crown is about 10 years old, and it gets very top heavy when I can't harvest all the spears. So I'm just going to tie it up here with a string, tie it to a stake to kind of give it a little bit of support. And I'd eventually like for this entire bed to be asparagus. So last month I started some seeds indoors with a new variety, and I think this will be very nice. Of course, I won't be able to harvest spears from these for about 3 years. It takes a while before you can actually harvest the spears of asparagus. So I went ahead and transplanted those out, and the real mature crown that I had in the garden is already producing flowers. Now we'll head back to the corner of the bed where I usually grow a lot of herbs. This year, however, I did sneak in a little eggplant, so I'm looking forward to that this year. Hopefully it'll grow well in this climate. I also snuck in one of my pepper plants that I grew. This is my favorite red bell pepper plant. I grew it here last year and just got some beautiful red bell peppers. So the Greek oregano is getting quite mature and is not yet producing flowers, so this is the perfect time for me to harvest it, especially since I won't be out here again for at least another few weeks. I dry my oregano much like I do my mint, and I included a video on that for you last year. And this is the rosemary. I just put out a little transplant this year of rosemary. And then this is some common sage. I planted this last year. Now this was earlier this spring in April, and it was just a mess. It had survived the winter fine, and so I wanted to clean it up a little bit, so I cut it all back, and now here it is. It looks really nice, like a new plant. Off to the right I have the lemon thyme. This is my favorite variety of thyme. It is just so wonderful. It has so much flavor, and it's just doing beautifully this year. This is its second year. And then I also have noticed a lot of borage reseeding in the garden. I just put one plant in here, I guess probably about 3 years ago, and it just still continues to come up every year from just reseeding, so it's not something that I have to plant again and again, and it attracts a lot of bees to the garden. Now in the center, in the back of the garden, is where I'm growing strawberries. I'd like for this to eventually fill in completely with strawberries, so I've been working on this little patch here for about 2 years now, and I actually added a new variety this year called Rainbow Treasure. So here are some strawberries. They seem to be doing great, so real happy about that. Now we'll head back to the other corner, and this is where I'm going to plant corn. This entire bed here will be corn, And I'm soaking my seeds first because I'm not going to get rain here for a few more days. So I'm going to go ahead and help the seed along by soaking it in water first. And I grew this variety of corn about, let's see, 2 years ago, I guess, and it just grew so tall. I could not believe how tall this corn was. I'm 5'9", and this corn easily grew to 11 feet tall. And it's delicious too. This is a very old-fashioned southern variety of corn. So I'm going to go ahead and put 2 seeds per hole. Now I also want to plant some winter squash, and I have some Delicata seed, so this will be fun to grow. A viewer recommended that I give this a try, so I'm going to go ahead and plant it as well. These are always just fun to grow. They add a big pop of color to the garden. They give the garden some height. However, they can also shade the garden a little bit, so I have to be careful where I plant them. Last year I had a really big one that I harvested, and every year I tend to harvest a sunflower for you guys. So the heads of these sunflowers get about anywhere from 14 to 16 inches in diameter, and they produce a lot of sunflower seeds, as you can see here. So these are nice. You can brine the seeds and then roast them, or you can just save them for your bird feeders to attract birds to your yard. So I guess my overall favorite southern green bean would be a Greasy green bean. And I did a review on this bean for you a few years ago. They are full of flavor, and I always like to grow them up the little archways. About 2 years ago, when I grew them here in this garden, I harvested about 15 pounds of them one weekend. So they were really, really good, with some fresh potatoes from the garden too. Just yummy. So I'm also going to plant some crowder peas. I just love crowder peas. And this is called a lady cream pea. This will be the first year that I've grown it. I'll also trellis it up the archway. I'm hoping that they will be easy to harvest that way. So thanks for stopping by the River Garden and seeing how I'm tending it and growing it this year. Thanks so much for watching, and y'all have a beautiful day.